time is moving forward. Like you never know how long something is going to last. And so what are we waiting for? Like what important milestones were we delaying and thinking we had a lot of time because maybe we don't.
I am so much softer now. It's
Hmm.
unbelievable, right? I am so much more protective over my time, over my mind, over my everything today versus when I was grinding it.
The universe doesn't give us challenges that we can't overcome, and every challenge is can really be turned into a gift.
Focus on hitting your goals in every area of your business. Remember, the universe rewards the bold. A leader has to take the risks. Great to see you, man. What's going on? How are you?
I'm doing good.
All
Doing
right.
good. Not
What's
as tan
new?
as you.
What's that? Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. You know what? It's got to be the lighting. I don't know, man. So, where are you located right now?
I'm in my home office in the Malibu Mountains. What about you?
Okay. All right. And have you lived out in California your whole life?
Mostly, yeah, except for college and studying abroad. Born and
Okay.
raised in the Palisades, Pacific Palisades, and yeah, came back
Wow, man. So,
after living elsewhere.
did your house get burned or?
It did, unfortunately. Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So that's interesting. And what was that like, man? I mean, what did you can you explain to us exactly what you went through and what's that like?
Um, well, I guess like the full context. Are we on? Is this the podcast right now?
We're,
Okay.
we're rocking,
Awesome,
brother.
cool.
We're rocking, man.
Great, going
We're
straight
always
into it.
rocking.
Love it. Yeah, so I it wasn't just my house. It was my whole community, like being born and raised in my town. It was my church, it was my elementary school, both my elementary schools, my preschool, the place where I had my first kiss, and like my wife is also from the Palisades, and so her house burned down. So, I know kind of like it's pretty crazy. Literally hundreds of people, pretty much everybody I grew up with has all been affected by
Wow.
this
Wow.
in some way. And so I can't remember exactly what your question was, but yeah, I mean, I would say that it was a pretty significant trauma for me and my family just on the microcosm, and I kind of jumped straight into like triage mode, helping my parents kind of find a temporary location, and I put my business on pause for a few months, and I would say that um, I was energetically challenged for a while. But the truth is, looking back, I do feel like that it needed to happen. I do feel like there was tons of silver linings. Not to get super spiritual, but I was actually flying home from London the day that the fire happened. So I was literally on a plane, unable to land in the Burbank airport because the wind was so bad. So we were circling the Burbank airport with like crazy like the plane kind of just like dropping with turbulence, just like watching through the windows the fire. And so me and my wife, we have this spiritual practice, and we were connecting up to, you know, the universe, God, whatever you want to call it.
Right, right, right.
And we were basically doing all these protection spells, like protecting our homes, protecting our cars that were there, which is kind of an interesting story too. But and I just kept seeing like God's hand just like going over the entire area, like just this feeling of refresh, just like starting over and newness. But I did also see that my specific home or area was actually going to be protected. I don't know how long you wanted to talk about this, but it is, I don't talk about that often. But yeah, so when everything was all said and done, and the next morning we kind of woke up and saw the news, and realized that yeah, the fire had gone through our whole area. Um, Looking back. now it does feel, like my family is closer than we've ever been before. We're talking about things that we've never talked about legacy and finances. And, because before when I was hanging out with my parents just as a kid growing up, you just kind of want to hang out. You don't want to talk about the big stuff. You don't want to talk about like your
Right, right,
will and what's important to you and what's going to happen when you pass. Like are you passing on the home to me or my two brothers? Like and so we finally had to confront a lot of these important conversations that really brought us together, I think in a really nice way. And honestly, I think that's why me and my wife finally got pregnant because we were like, hey, time is moving forward. Like you never know how long something is going to last. And so what are we waiting for? Like what important milestones were we delaying and thinking we had a lot of time because maybe we don't. And so
right.
and my parents are getting older and we never know how long anything is going to last now. So that's why me and my wife finally got pregnant and she's actually could be giving birth any moment now.
You're like, if I have to
So
cut the podcast short, then that's probably why.
yeah, if
So,
she starts calling me into the other room, that will definitely be why. But yeah, so I appreciate you asking that because I know this is a podcast. You talk a lot about finances and financial security and wealth, and
right, right,
and it's interesting to have an event like that trigger um, more thoughtfulness and care on a generational wealth or generational level.
right, right. And wow, I mean, this is pretty significant thing that happened in your life. I mean, and I guess we're gonna transition into all the things that you talk about and your business and coaching and all that stuff. But I guess what's interesting about all this is you're actually going through it. You're a lot of the things that you're practicing, teaching, coaching about, you're now having to start to really use. I mean, so this could be an interesting conversation where we start to maybe dive down deep into not just what you can do for everybody else, but what you're doing for yourself. And that really could be the conversation.
Yeah.
And so tell me, how have you been using some of these things? Because, okay, so first of all, you lost your house, your parents lost their house, cars got burned, right? Am I right? I mean, like cars are gone.
Yeah.
So this is like massive devastation. And this is not just you guys, but I mean the whole Palisades area, it's wiped out. And so tell me some of the things that you're, practical things that you're doing for your own life to make sure that you stay grounded, that you stay on the right track. And I want you to think about it in terms of, okay, like, if you were also coaching those people going through that, because it could be a fire, it could be a loss of a job, it could be,
Mhm.
a a family member passing away. I mean, there's a lot of trauma that people are going through. It's not just burning of a house, but a lot of stuff that people are going. So how do you kind of spell that out for us?
Yeah, thanks for priming it that way. And yeah, I think that my whole life, and I think it's true for a lot of coaches or healing practitioners, they end up having a life that does include perhaps more of these moments than the average person. And I think that the reason why is because when we have an increased density of challenges, of challenging events, that forces us to rise to the occasion. It's kind of like pressure makes diamonds. And so I do think that all of my challenges and all my obstacles have helped me grow and have forced me to learn new skills, whether it's interpersonal challenges, like breakups or being cheated on, or, physical ailments. I used to have psoriasis. I had a hernia operation when I was a kid and I didn't understand it. And my whole life, everybody thought I had one testicle. And so I was kind of bullied for that. And so, like, all these different things that you could see as bad, were not. They were not. And I think that the universe doesn't give us challenges that we can't overcome. And every challenge can really be turned into a gift or an opportunity to grow. And so I see that for this as well. I think that, at the highest level, none of us are victims. And that we can be perhaps victimized. We can experience real trauma. I mean, I work with people all the time that do have serious ailments and, was working with someone 2 days ago who in a healing session kind of she revealed that she, lost her virginity, not that wasn't her choice without her
Right.
consent.
Right.
And so we're kind of working on the deepest inner obstacles and challenges, but at the same time, at the highest level, those can be gifts. Those can be opportunities. And so I think that's maybe to kind of begin to answer your question, that's I think a really helpful perspective to have when we are being when life is in session and we are really being thrown a major challenge, a major life challenge. And so it's hard
And
to get there. Mhm.
why do you think that so many people live a life of victimhood though? I mean, because I don't know how you ever become the best version of yourself if you're always blaming somebody else
Yeah.
for your challenges, because you could sit around and you go, oh my God, my life is over. I lost my house. My parents lost their house. All my neighbors, all my school, it's like, oh my God, why did God do this to me? And, like you could spend your whole life. And by the way, people, I know people that are 70 years old and they're still talking about shit that happened to them when they were 12. It's like,
Yeah.
what do you, like at some point, shouldn't we get over? I mean, do we have to have trauma till we're 95 and then we're like, okay, now we died, then now all the trauma's gone? Like what how do we get through that?
It's a great question. And I think that the reason why people find themselves in that victim mentality or victim mindset is actually in some way because it's easier. It's easier to not take full responsibility for our reality. And it's easier sometimes to feel like this is happening to us instead of happening for us. And so that is why mindfulness practices exist. That's why people go to church. It's why people read spiritual texts because um, our minds actually get in the way a lot of what is true and what is best. In fact, from a human design perspective, I don't know how into human design you are, but from a human design perspective, what they say is that our bodies are incredibly intelligent and highly evolved, but our minds haven't caught up yet. And so our minds are still like Neanderthal minds, like our brains kind of haven't evolved for 200,000 years. It's like we're still kind of cavemen up here with our thoughts. It's kind of a lot of fears and because you ate one bad berry and then you ate nine healthy blueberries and you have one bad berry and then like you throw up and so you never want to eat one bad berry again. And so we kind of our minds have this aversion to pain and that was almost like evolutionarily just advantageous to be wary and vigilant and to think that like there could be a bear around the corner. But that's the old mind. And so what the reason why I brought up human design, I love the framework, is that the answers and the truth are in our bodies, and our minds are actually not the place to be making decisions from. They're not the place to be they're not the place where our inner authority or our best version of ourselves comes from, that they can often self-sabotage. So a lot of the work that I've been doing over this last year, because it's been about a year since the fire, is finding the thoughts, the negative self-talk, the victimhood, and the emotions that are associated with that, the feeling frustrated, resentful around governance and people that didn't show up at the time because it could have been prevented, like the anger and jadedness, and just kind of acknowledging that, and then in meditative states witnessing letting that go, because that emotion is energy, and emotions are energy in motion. And so in meditative states, my practice is imagining releasing those feelings and having it go back up into what I call the superconscious, which is really just that kind of God universe that I was mentioning earlier. And you do that enough times, and you do actually let go of the feelings and the traumas that are associated with it.
Right,
And
right.
but it's a practice.
Yeah. And it's just, I mean, I think as time goes on, you start to become better and better at that, right? I mean, you start to become, it starts to be more natural where, you know, it just comes, it flows to you now because you've been doing it for so long. So it flows to you a little bit more naturally uh, than maybe it's somebody that's never heard of it before. Right? I mean, a lot
Totally.
of this stuff, I mean, let's be honest, it's not stuff that you're taught in high school,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
Which is very interesting to me because I think that so many things are not taught in high school or elementary school, or it's wild. You talked about the financial, right? I mean, I've been saying for years that young children and high schoolers, they should learn about how money works.
Mhm.
I mean, why are we not teaching our kids how money works, how taxes work, how to, have a budget sheet, how to use Quicken? That should be a no-brainer. Like every high school should teach their students how to actually use a financial software. And then not to mention, what about all this other stuff? What about the spiritual part of it, and understanding how the universe works, and understanding the law of attraction, and understanding quantum physics, and understanding, right, all these things. We don't ever teach any of this stuff in high school. So we get out and then we immediately go to college, and colleges don't teach this stuff. At least most colleges don't teach this stuff. And then we get out in the world and we wonder why so many people are not doing well. And then we got to go reach out and find somebody like you or me to kind of try to guide them and put them back together. Like, wait a minute, shouldn't you have learned this shit in your first 14 years of school? I mean,
Yeah.
shouldn't somebody, I mean, somewhere along the line taught you this stuff? And so I don't know, maybe we, collaborate and we put together our own school where we can
Totally.
teach young
No,
kids. And
I think that's what's necessary. I mean, now that I'm about to be a dad, we talk about that a lot, and I'm not planning on putting my kids through public school. I mean, I do think that the alternative school system, whether it's Montessori or homeschool, I think that that's definitely the way to go, because you're totally right. And, I honestly, I think that that's actually by design. I don't think that the purpose of public school is to create leaders and business owners that understand finances and know how to actually create true wealth. I think they're trying to create employees. They're trying to create worker bees. They're trying to create cogs in this system of their own corporate hierarchy, and it's worked for a long time. And that's kind of what the whole, I think like we're leaving. I mean, astrologically, I'm not an expert, but aren't we kind of leaving this whole Pisces era and we're stepping into the age of Aquarius? And I feel like what we're stepping out of is kind of that, of these institutions where we're kind of under this kind of status quo, hierarchical, patriarchal, um, uh, static institutions, and that's something that we experience from the moment we're born with school. and then ends up being our lives with working at a job. But that's all breaking down. And I feel like people are seeing through that now and realizing that that's not the dream and that it's a false promise, and that you kind of need to plow your own path, and that the answers actually are out there, but they're outside of that system. And so that's why, I used to work in the film business. I was in the corporate world, and I realized that I needed to follow my own vision, and I wasn't learning how to create a big impact and do what I needed to do within the system. And so, I really support people who are solopreneurs, entrepreneurial, following their own path, and don't have like a parent or a mentor who has done it and modeled it for them, because it is a very individual journey, but it is a self-development journey as well. And so, yeah,
When
I
when when did you realize that you weren't just tired, but maybe you were living the wrong life or you're going the wrong path? I mean, was there ever kind of a turning point for you in your life?
yeah.
When was that? What was that?
Yeah, I mean, I've had a few. I've kind of people who've known me for a while say that I reinvent myself like every 5 years. So I've had a few major transitions. I used to be a DJ in Hollywood, and I before that I did neuroscience research, and so I've lived a few different lives. But I think most recently stepping out of the film industry, because I was Steven Spielberg's assistant for many years, and to be honest, I was finally no longer an assistant, and I was an executive for the first time, something I wanted for like a decade. And I found myself creatively unfulfilled. I found myself not really feeling meaningful or purposeful, that what I was working on was going to take so long. It didn't really feel like I was doing much. I wanted to really follow my own vision. So the truth is, I knew something had to change. I knew that I had to shift gears somehow, and I didn't know what. So I actually did an ayahuasca ceremony, and I went into the ayahuasca ceremony with three specific questions or intentions. And actually, the first one was, what is this pain in my middle back? I had this like pain in the left side of my back for years. I'm like, what is this pain? And the second question was, what is my next big career path? Like, what skills can I merge with my interests, and actually like what's the next step for me? And then the third question, and these were all unrelated, they're just like three things I wanted to figure out. The third question was, how do I break my phone addiction? Because I was like on my phone all the time, scrolling. And the crazy thing in the ayahuasca ceremony, it was like I had a vision. I don't know how to call it anything else. And the vision was the answer of all three of those questions all at once, which was that, hey, the pain in your back is actually because you've been on your phone all the time, and it's actually just looking down. So the pain from your back is physical from the phone addiction. And you are going to use your neuroscience background to actually break your phone addiction and stop overusing your phone. And then you're going to teach other people how to do it. And it's going to be called Brick, and here's the logo, and you're going to develop an app for it. And so I literally came out of that ceremony and I was like, holy cow, I know exactly what I want to do. And I remember I journaled like 15 pages. And, long story short, 6 months later, I'd quit my job and I was developing Brick full time. And I ended up becoming the world's first phone habits coach. And I did break my bad phone habits, and I did reduce my screen time. And I used all the things I'd learned from Steven Spielberg with producing, all the things I'd learned through my neuroscience research and behavior change. And I finally merged it all together into helping people as a coach to break their bad phone habits and reduce their screen time. So that was that was kind of a big major transition for me. And then since then it's evolved fully, where I realized that there's I could help people on a much deeper level through this spiritual healing method that I now practice. And yeah, sometimes I help people with phone habits, but now I help people with the stuff that's like underneath the phone habits. So it's been
And
stepping stones.
so All right. So I want to talk about this phone habits thing because I think that's pretty interesting stuff. What's going on and what's the deal with phone habits? I mean, can you give me some numbers or some statistics or some, and then I want to know more about this app. So explain the
Sure,
app and
sure.
all that good stuff.
Yeah, so the average person spends about 5 hours a day on their phone. And over the course of a year, 5 hours a day is 2.5 months of your life. So 2.5 months over the last, let's say, 10 years that you've had a phone, that's 25 months, which is more than 2 years. So 2 full years straight out of the last 10 years, that's 24/7 waking time the average person has spent on their phone. Now, obviously, not all of that is wasted. We need our phones, we use them to do work and communicate and email and connect to loved ones, but typically, um, 50% of the time we spend on our phone is unproductive time wasting. And so people are wasting months, if not years, of their life scrolling. People scroll on average, like I think it's 3 football fields a day. And so
Wow.
it just so it's a problem. And I explored this starting in 2017. So it's been almost 10 years that I've been in the weeds helping people with this. And I ended up actually creating a method. I call it the phone smart method, because our phones are designed to be smarter than us, but you can actually become smarter than your phone. You can become phone smart. And so this method I used to teach one-on-one and as a coach, and now I've turned it into a recorded method that people kind of do on their own. It includes meditations and habit change protocols, and it just works if you just follow it. And so um,
Can you give me a
I
couple of ideas there? I mean, how
yeah,
people
so
can.
there totally, yeah. So there's what I call 15 phone smart habits, which are specific habits that, if applied, allow you to cut your screen time in half, say no to distractions, and enjoy more time off or focus on what really matters. And I can share a couple of them. One really powerful one is to make your bedroom a phone-free zone. Most people use their phone as their alarm clock. And so they check their phone to turn their alarm off. And then the next thing they know, they're in bed and they're checking their emails, checking their texts. And then suddenly 45 minutes has gone by and they've now spent the first waking moments of their day being barraged by other people's energy, by stress and obligation. And that then sets a tone for the rest of the day. It sets a tone for greater reactivity, for restlessness, for comparison of your own journey against others. And I think it's not surprising that the loneliness and epidemic and suicide and happiness dissatisfaction scores are through the roof. And so it's all associated with that. So when you make your bedroom a phone-free zone, and typically people are like, wait, what do you mean I need to use my phone? There are literally $10 alarm clocks on Amazon that you can buy that, I mean, there's expensive, nicer ones too, but you can spend $10 and tomorrow get your own battery powered or plug in alarm clock and then charge your phone in the other room. Even if you live in a little studio apartment, you can charge it in the bathroom. And if you can just spend the first hour of your day phone free, that creates a completely different energy, a completely different momentum where you are creating a sense of presence and groundedness with yourself, and then get to decide, like, what are my priorities? What do I want to focus on today? And once you have that North Star or that concept, then when I finally sit down at my computer and then when I finally check my phone and finally get the inputs, it doesn't matter how stressful the news is. It doesn't matter what went wrong overnight or the things, because I'm already grounded in myself and I'm able to stay even keel and non-emotional about it. So yeah, so making your bedroom a phone-free zone, making the first hour of your day phone-free are two of the 15 habits that I teach that you just do one of those things and it can change everything. So
Well, I trade options in the morning, man. So I'm screwed. So I got to get up
you
an
got
hour
to wake up earlier.
earlier. I got to get up an hour earlier now to not be on my phone for an hour.
Yeah,
Then I start trading at 6:30. No, you just screwed me bad, man. No, I'm playing. I'm playing. But most people don't do that in the morning, so
yeah,
I get where you're coming from. So, any other ideas that you have when it comes to the phone and why it's so important that we get rid of that? Because there's no question. I am phone addicted for sure. You know,
okay.
it's like you go to the Alcoholics Anonymous and you say, you know, I am an alcoholic. I
I'm a
am phone. You
phoneaholic.
know, it's funny. You know what I just thought about right now? When I was in like the seventh grade, I was in a drama class or something, and we were on stage, and I had, we sat in a room, and the whole play was about I am a jogaholic. I remember that right now. That's what that memory just brought me back. But no, I am phone addicted. There's no question about it because, you know, everything I do has the phone some way connected. You know, like if I, you know, plan for a trip, I got to be on my phone or the laptop, and I think probably in a way those go hand in hand, but you know, it's either the laptop, it's either the phone, I mean, if I, you know, work with a client, it's on the laptop or the phone, or if I'm texting somebody, it's on the phone or what, you know, it's like how, how do we get a, it's almost impossible if you're working, it's almost impossible not to be on the phone.
Totally. Yeah, so I mean, I have a lot to say about all that,
Yeah,
but I don't know how
tell
much
me.
time
I
we
want to
have.
hear it, man.
Okay. Um, Back in the day, we had landlines, right? And you would show up at work at 8 a.m. and you'd leave at 5, or I don't know, maybe longer. Maybe people worked longer hours. I mean, in the film industry, everybody has always worked longer hours,
Yeah, for sure.
but you would kind of just clock in and clock out. And because you had to, you literally couldn't check your emails on the way home or while you're cooking because you had to sit at the office or you had to sit at the computer. It was literally plugged in. And so what we're experiencing today is this cost of convenience, this cost of having this amazing, powerful, godlike tool in our pocket is that, yeah, we can check our emails 24/7. Yeah, we can trade options. We can look at the market. We can do things 24/7. Is that best though? Like, is that actually helpful? Is that most productive? And I would argue not. I would argue that sometimes turning off could actually be the most productive thing that you do. That especially the creative mind. Like I work with a lot of people who are authors and creators and filmmakers, and so the stimulated mind is unable to think clearly. And the unstimulated mind is the creative mind, where suddenly that's why everybody always says, oh, I get my best ideas in the shower. Why is that? Well, number one, you're not on your phone, hopefully. But number two, because you're in a habitual state where you're in the same place, you're relaxed. So you're kind of in a meditative state, you're kind of in a trance, and you are not receiving inputs where ideas can finally connect and you can receive. And so you come up with one great idea that could be worth $1 million. You think of one person to reach out to, or one thing to say, or one email to write that just comes to you in a moment of stillness can change your whole life. And so I think that, yes, there are certain roles, certain jobs, like option trading is a good example. I know there's also like real estate agents. There's people that do feel like they have to be on 24/7. And I would say that I would challenge that and say that, actually maybe the most important thing to do is to actually carve out phone-free, screen-free time, because it's even more essential for you to have that time if you are in one of those mission control type jobs. And so what I typically recommend is to have a couple different practices. One is having a phone-free practice in the evening, like to actually just decide when I start making dinner, I put the phone down and maybe I check it one last time before I go to bed just to make sure I don't need to reschedule or that like remind myself what the calendar looks like. But you're just doing one final check of the calendar, but you are not working after a certain time. And so I even sometimes tell people to set an alarm clock. We have this alarm clock in the morning. For me, a way more important alarm clock is the evening alarm that forces me to stop working. Otherwise, it could be 9, 10 p.m. and I'm still working. And so my evening
All
alarm
right, all right.
clock,
I got a question. Sorry to
yeah,
interrupt you, but I got
yeah,
a question. I just thought of something. Okay, so Steven Spielberg, how much is he on his phone?
yeah. I have signed a lot of agreements
Oh,
that
okay. So you
prevent
can't
me
really talk
from
about
talking
him. Okay.
specifically about his life.
Okay. So
But
not
yeah,
Steven Spielberg. Okay. We're
sure.
not talking about Steven Spielberg, but you've been in the industry for a lot of years and you know directors. So let's just say, generally speaking, when you think about directors and you think about people in the movie industry and things like that, how much are these guys on their phone?
Yeah, I think one way that I could answer it is that in my experience, rich people protect their minds. Rich people are very careful. And when I say rich, I mean like true wealth, like
Right.
people like him, people who have achieved massive success. Like he's a billionaire. So like billionaires, people that
Yeah.
are really successful, they do a really great job protecting what comes into their mind because they know that once something is in there, it's really hard to ignore it. It's really hard to not do something about it. The subconscious mind, once you see a text, see an email, see a problem, it can't help but start trying to solve it. It can't help but start
Okay.
grinding its gears.
But I wanna push back a little bit because this is the one thing that I think a lot about because I'm a little bit in I'm not a billionaire, but I'm a little bit in that situation where it's like I am so much softer now. It's
Mm,
unbelievable, right? I am so much more protective over my time, over my mind, over my everything today versus when I was grinding it. When I was grinding it, that first 10 years, 15 years of me being in business, where everything that I have today was built in that time and place of my life, right? Like, kind of like I'm thinking of a famous director, right? Whoever that is, that guy, when he was making that movie, those movies, those first movies that changed his entire life, right? I mean, you know what I'm talking about. And like this, like all he did was think about his work. All he did was think about the grind. All he did, and now if he had a cell phone, probably didn't back then, but if he did have a cell phone, he was probably on it 24/7, answering calls. Maybe I'm wrong. Push me back on this. Maybe I'm wrong, but I think that sometimes we got to be careful at looking at the billionaire and go, man, the guy's a billionaire now,
yeah.
but and he's, of course he's protecting it now, man, because he's got assistants, he's got these people, he's got that, he's got, the cooks cooking his food he doesn't have to think about food, doesn't have to think about this, that, whatever. So but I'm talking about that entrepreneur, small business, just grinding it out right now. And he's looking at you, he's going, hey man, everything that sounds good, but I got
Yeah.
to get back with my clients because I got to close this sale, man. I got to close this deal. I got to get that recruit. I got to, whatever. And so how do you put that together and how do we solve that?
Yeah, no, I think that that's a really great challenge and you're totally right. And I think that um your behaviors now, you have built systems and processes and the kind of early phase, the scrappy, you know, ramen lifestyle that people talk about with entrepreneurs, like that works for a lot of people. And it works, I would say, or it can work. Um, and but then there's also a lot of people that burn out. And there's a lot of people that feel like they need to be on 24/7 and that they need to grind and hustle. And the truth is that grinding and hustling is actually not for everybody. And that there's a lot of people that are really successful without doing that. That, aren't on social media and check their emails like a couple times a week. And those are a lot of, it's not every, that everybody, I take a human design perspective around this as well. So from a human design perspective, the kind of people that benefit the best of like working 16-hour days and like grinding and working, those are the generator types. Those are people who kind of wake up every morning with a certain amount of energy to like get things done. But not everybody is a generator. There's people who are projectors and there's people who are reflectors. And so I think unfortunately, because there's a few different types of people, these projectors don't have the same amount of energy. They have inconsistent access to energy. And so the entrepreneurial world was kind of written by generator types, where it is kind of assumed that to succeed, I need to be on all the time. So that's one thing. Some people are meant to actually just lead teams and have other people do the work, and they're just supposed to be the deciders. They're supposed to be the visionary. They're not supposed to like be the hustle or the grind. And there's a lot of examples of people who found success through that as well. And so, but I would say, to maybe get to your question a little more directly, or what you're pointing out, is that I just want to divide working really hard and doing the work, separate that from being on your phone or your laptop all the time, because those are not the exact same thing. And that, yeah, like I work a lot. I'm constantly, I'm almost 10 years in, and I do work weekends and I do think about it 24/7. I was thinking about it last night instead of sleeping when I couldn't go back to bed. And so yes, that is, I think, a quality that can be really helpful, to be monomaniacal and be like, I don't care as much about anything else as I care about this. And like, this is why I'm freaking here on this earth, is like, this is the most important thing to me. And that's admirable. That's mission oriented. Um, but that's not necessarily the exact same thing as hustle or grind. I feel like being committed and dedicated is one thing, but doesn't require checking your phone 24/7, being on calls on Saturday and Sunday. And in fact, in my experience, when I actually create restrictions, when I say, okay, I'm not going to check social media on Saturday. Saturday is like my phone free, my screen free day. That doesn't mean I'm not working. It might actually be that on Saturday is when I get the most work done, because that's when I'm journaling, or that's when I'm thinking big picture and goal setting. That's where I'm meditating more and receiving more guidance on what the next month could look like, instead of what happens to be the last email that I just got. Because the truth is, our emails and our texts are everybody else's to-do list for us. And so if we are reacting constantly to the last text, the last email that we saw, that just happens to be the most recent one. And most recent does not mean most important. So I get often my best work done when I am working at nights, when no one else is responding to me, when I am hustling or grinding and doing my own thing. I get my best work done on Saturdays or Sundays, when like I have nothing else to do and I'm schedule free and I put blinders on and I'm not distracted by anything else. So I think there's like a middle ground there. Like I think you're right, and also there's like nuance to it.
I think you're right on, man. I mean, I think a lot of what you're saying is right on. I mean, all I was trying to point out is that, because I had this Alex Hermosi, and I'm gonna post it because I don't know, I didn't finish editing it, so I didn't post it, but I actually did the little stitch, and he had a message, and he was telling one of his guys, he's like, hey man, you got to be in the gym more. And the guy's like, man, I'm just too busy right now to be in the gym. And Alex was like, he was like, man, you gotta, this is the time of your life. You're only 23 years old. This is the time of your life to be in the gym because you're never gonna have as much free time as you have right now. And I pushed back on there and I said, wait a minute, Alex. That's not true if you do it right. If you do this, if you play this game the right way, I think when you're 23, if you go kill it for a few years, doesn't mean you kill it for the rest of your life, but if you go kill it for the next 5 to 10 years correctly, you could build some financial freedom, build a lot of passive income, create some ongoing, money that's coming in whether you work or not, which is the whole goal. Hopefully, people are thinking like that. Because if you can do that, or when you do that, that you could get free. So at 28, I was free, man. I haven't had to, I've
Wow.
been semi-retired for 20 years. I haven't physically had to work for money for 20 years. So, and so I've had more free time to work out. I look better today than I probably did when I was 25 years old. I mean, I eat better now. I exercise more now. I take better supplements. I don't drink as much alcohol, not even nearly as much alcohol as I did back in my, early, you know, late teens and early 20s for sure. I mean, I feel amazing right now. And so I just think that uh, right now for some people has got to be that kind of that crunch time. I was kind of
Mhm.
alluding to that director, those directors out there that, I know what they were like, man, I've been there. I've
Yeah.
grinded it. So I know these guys, man. This was all consuming for them for a while. But then, hey, he made a few movies, he got rich, and now he's, uh vacationing all over the world and he does whatever he wants to do. If he doesn't get on his phone for a week, who gives a shit? Nobody, somebody's answering his calls anyways. I mean, there's just so and I think that we just can't forget that there is that period of time. Even like with you right now, right? You're in that little period of your life too. You're gonna have a brand new baby. It's your duty to make money. It's your duty to, man, you got to provide. You got to go get it done. You know what I mean? And so and by the way, that was the most fun time in my life. I mean, I
Mm,
had kids at 27
mm,
and I just, I, my having kids and working hard. And I mean, I remember I used to keep up because in my business a little different. I mean, I would work late because I'd go on appointments and things like that with clients. And so I'd get home sometimes at 11 o'clock. I would keep my son Max up. I'd tell my wife, keep him up till I get home. So he would like, I'd make sure, like, so we sometimes wouldn't go to bed till midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning. But it was different because we could sleep till whenever we wanted to sleep. I was a business owner. I didn't have a boss or anything like that. So I did whatever I wanted to do. But I was like that because I still wanted to make sure I was playing with my kids. I still wanted to
mm,
make sure I took them to school, still wanted to make sure I picked them up, still want to make sure I did all those things. So I did it all.
mm.
And sometimes I'd have to take naps during the day just to make sure I was on my game, and which is okay. Nothing wrong with naps, man. I'm a big nap guy. I take a 30-minute nap. I have a little thing that I listen to, and she puts me to sleep, and it wakes me up, and man, I'm on my game. So it's just. But I think you're right on. I think a lot of us got to be careful. I have a arm shoulder issue,
Mm.
like kind of it hurts all the time. Actually, both this one hurts more than this one, but I'm mentioning that because of this right here. It's this. It's right
Mm.
here. My arm is like this. So I know where it's coming from. I know that it's 20 years of holding this phone like this and looking at, you know what I mean? It's like, so what you're saying is so right on. And I learned so much from you today. Why do
Hmm.
successful people feel guilty for not suffering? Can you answer that?
Why do successful people feel guilty for not suffering?
Do you think
That's a
successful
great
people
question.
sometimes feel,
Definitely.
yeah.
Yeah, I think a lot of people hold themselves back from shining, from being as successful or as bright or rich or positive as they could be. And when I have found myself doing that, I think that it's because some part of me felt like that's how I connected with others. I connected with others. I didn't want to lose my connection to others. I didn't want to leave people behind. I didn't want for people in my family or my friends to be jealous or envious. And so it was almost like a anticipation of judgment or anticipation of hurting others that I think prevents a lot of successful people from really just going for it.
And is burnout, when you think about burnout and you talked a little bit about that. I mean, you know, is there like is it is it your body telling you that maybe you're chasing the wrong dream, or is it just that inevitably your body's just like, man, I can't take it anymore? I mean, what is burnout?
Yeah, I mean, I think burnout is continuously saying yes to the things that are actually a no. A no in your body, a no in your heart, a no in your spirit. And when you continue to say yes and do things because of obligation, because of fear of financial insecurity, I don't want to go to this job, but I feel like I have to. I don't want to say yes to this person, but I don't want to go to that birthday, but they went to mine. You know, whenever you say yes to something that you say no, that feels really like a no in your body, you don't have the energy for it. And if you keep doing that, I think that's what leads to burnout. What doesn't lead to burnout is staying up late, working on something, being always in on something that you're passionate about. I mean, there's two main types of stress. There's like classic stress that can lead to burnout, but then there's also this thing called eustress that Alex Hormozy also even talks about. And eustress is like, yeah, I'm being challenged by this thing, but I love it and it's helping me grow. This is like my growth zone. I'm like being loving working out, loving the challenge of writing a book, love the challenge of selling a product, selling a big ticket product and dealing with objections. Like that can be a very challenging, I mean, growing, it's like growing pains that can feel really good. And so I would say that um, again, there's a human design aspect to this too, where you can actually look at your human design chart and figure out what is what is in alignment with you, what actually is energizing for you, what lights you up. And you're supposed to be saying yes to only those things and then saying no to everything else, even if it doesn't make sense. Even if your mind has those fears or worries or doubts about it, that it's not the mind that you want to make decisions from, it's that inner expanse, that energizing feeling in your body.
And I know that you have been obviously coaching people for a long time. You've met with a lot of people through the years. And what's one of the most common issues that kind of come up more often than not?
I think that pretty much, I work with a lot of business owners, a lot of founders, a lot of solopreneurs, and they're all problem solvers. They're all really good at solving problems. Their products solve a problem in the market, maybe their app. And I'm a problem solver too. Like as a coach, people work with me to solve problems for them. And one thing I noticed is that most business owners are great at solving certain problems, but they're not great at solving others. And so, almost everybody I discovered has what I call limiting beliefs. And limiting beliefs are basically these programs that are running, these stories that are running in our unconscious, in our subconscious mind. We don't know they're limiting beliefs, but they are limiting us and they feel true. Like it's hard to make a lot of money, or um, business is a struggle, or people don't like my product. Those are all just programs. Those are all stories that are running that are sabotaging us and sabotaging most people. And different people have different limiting beliefs. I mean, there are very common ones that most people struggle with. And I would say, to answer your question, one of them is the like not enough one, to feel like I'm not enough, or I'm not good enough, or I need to be perfect, or I'm not worthy, it's not good enough. And that the kind of not enoughness feeling, this kind of not feeling good enough, is just pretty inherent, I think, in the human experience. I would say 90% of the people I work with on some level have this like I'm not good enough inside them that needs to be released. It needs to be cleared so they can realize that they are good enough and it is going to work and that they deserve the success. And that can shift a lot.
I mean, why would, I mean, what are some of the things that you might do with them to change that?
Well, what I do is my super conscious healing work. So we enter a meditative state together and we connect up into what I call the superconscious. And then I connect with them energetically and intuitively, and we get to the bottom of that belief. We get to the bottom of whatever trauma or feelings are associated with it, and we just delete it and release it and replace it with new beliefs and new feelings that are more aligned with who you want to be and how you want to feel. And so that is a it's almost like a clinical hypnotherapy, but because we're also calling in spiritual energy, there's like a spiritual healing aspect to it. And the only reason why I do it is because it's just the fastest, most effective way to clear limiting beliefs at the deepest level in like less than an hour. So that's just what I do typically with most of my clients.
Yeah, it's interesting that you talk about that because my whole life changed when I went through that process. So
Mm,
anybody watching, if you have an opportunity to work with Tommy, uh, I think it's one of the most important things you can do. I mean, I did it when I was probably 21 years old. Uh, they called it, Tony Robbins called it the Dickens pattern, by the way, which
mm,
you might be familiar with that, but it was a similar process. Yours might be a little bit more in depth, but the truth is, when I started in business, my limiting belief was that I was a short, uneducated little Mexican kid that came from a
mm,
poor neighborhood. Like that was ingrained in me so deep. I was scared of tall, white, educated men.
mm,
That's what I was, I felt like not good enough. I felt not smart enough. I felt like how am I ever going to be successful when I don't have a college education, when I don't look like these people and I don't know how to talk like them, I don't know how to, whatever. And so, I mean, it paralyzes you when somebody does not understand how to release those limiting beliefs, their whole life is being halted like right there. I mean, people live their entire lives with these limiting beliefs and they don't know why. That's
mm,
why I completely am on board with what you're saying is because if people don't release this stuff, man, I mean, they don't realize they're going to be 60 years old, not where they want to be, all because of this one belief. Sometimes it could be just
mm,
one belief that just keeps holding them back. And like you said, it's in their subconscious, so they don't even know that it's there. So they have no idea that it's
yeah.
stopping them. And so, man, I did it. I went through the process, and it was life changing for me because I started to figure out that it was just a belief. It was just a thought. It wasn't even real. It wasn't even a real thing. It was just like, what are you talking about? There's like a lot of, I mean, Tom Cruise is pretty successful. He's a short guy, he didn't, and he wasn't rich, by the way, when he started in Hollywood. So there's a lot of successful people in the world that that come from exactly where I came from. So once I started connecting all that, and
Mm,
I started figuring out that like they put on their, these guys put on their pants the same way I put on my pants. There's no
mm,
difference. The only difference is they've been here a lot longer than me. They are, they have mastered their craft better than me. And they've done it for a longer period of time. So I just gotta, and then so I started to think, man, I'm gonna steal their information. I'm going to learn from them. I'm going to get mentored by them. I'm going to be coachable. I'm going to follow their direction. And once I did that, it's like my whole life changed. What do you think about
mm.
that?
I mean, yeah, I couldn't agree more. It's so real. And yeah, people don't realize that their beliefs, they just think that that's reality. They just think that that's true. And so it really does help having somebody else like you had Tony Robbins and probably other mentors and guides as well that helped to uh, reflect back to you and challenge and question, like, hey, that's not universally true. That's just in your field somewhere, and you can change that. And I think that helping people to realize that that's possible, I think, is the first step. Like, oh, hey, like everything that I'm worried about, all my fears, insecurities, like that just means there's a limiting belief there. And that can be removed and replaced with an empowering one. And it's honestly, it's pretty straightforward and easy if you just know how. So, but yeah,
I
getting
love it,
help and
man.
support with it is kind of what has changed my life. Sounds like yours as well. Having somebody else who's figured it out to model it and then stealing it from them or doing it, borrowing that until you make it your own.
That's it, man. Well, this has been amazing, Tommy. Thank you so much for hanging with me. This has been such a powerful conversation. And I just before we go though, I do want to find out a little bit more about how people can connect with you because people are gonna be calling you up, they're gonna be DMing you on your Instagram. So give us your Instagram, give us your YouTube, give us your whatever website, so that way people can connect with you and use your services if they need it.
Yeah, absolutely. So everything's under my full name. It's just tommysobel.com, Sobel. And at my website, you can find my podcast where I talk a lot about all these concepts. You can also hop on a call with me where we get to the bottom of where you're stuck and what limiting beliefs are in your way. I also have a bunch of masterclasses and free resources on how to identify your limiting beliefs and how to begin to release them. And yeah, I think that's a good place to start on Instagram as well. I'm pretty active on Instagram. So,
Well, thank you so much, man. We appreciate you. Everybody, do me a huge favor. Reach out to Tommy, say what's up, say, hey, man, I saw you with Daniel Alonzo on the Wealth on the Beach podcast. Make sure that you give him a little high five or a little thank you for his wisdom, his knowledge, and just being open and sharing with us all his good stuff, man. I mean, this is just us trying to help other people have a better life, and a better life is just waiting for you. But you got to, continue to dream bigger than ever. You got to get after it, and you got to, most importantly, do it now. God bless you. We will see all of you at the top.